stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Public comment will occur during the public comment portion of the meeting and will be done via raising your hand remotely or in person. During public comment, once acknowledged, please state your name and ward so that it can be included in the minutes, and please limit your time to 3 minutes. Public comment is governed by policy BEDH. Are there any additions and deletions from the agenda?
Just amendment to the consent agenda. We will just be approving public minutes from August 28th, which they are in your packet.
Okay. Thank you. Public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? No. Is there any public comment online?
No, there is no public comment online.
Okay. We will reopen public comment again at the end of the meeting. Correspondence.
There was none.
Okay, great. Which moves us to consent agenda. So we need a motion to approve the public minutes from August 28th.
Make a motion to approve the public minutes from August 28th, 2024.
Okay. All right, moved by MJ, second by Mary. Are there any revisions to the minutes? MJ, go ahead.
I just have one. Under 9, new business, 9A, amendment to the LMS handbook. In the third sentence, it says, Lil stated she supports the changes and asked about funding. I actually think that was me that did that, not Lil. We look a lot alike.
Quick point of order, it's probably worth, if I'm attending remotely,
Right, that's good.
following the RSA 91A procedures.
Yep, and I was going to do that, but before we did the vote, but yes, I'm going to do it now. So, Richard, you're attending remotely. Can you just say that you are alone and why you're remote?
I am alone, and I'm remote because of COVID exposure.
Okay, thank you. So all of our votes will be roll call votes. Are there any other corrections to the agenda?
Kevin did mention that we started at 6:31 and not until 1.
Okay, perfect.
Minor.
Thank you. No, good. Richard, do you have any?
No, I do not.
Okay. All right, so we will vote on the motion to approve the minutes. Kevin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Abstain.
Okay. Mary?
Yes.
MJ?
Yes.
I'm a yes. John?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Tia?
Yes.
And Richard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, move on to nominations, renominations, and acknowledge.
Can I just ask one question? Jessica, you abstained, but you're listed as present.
I was present until 7:38 p.m.
So I think-
And then I cut out, so I don't. I was
So
not-
do we have it noted somewhere? We're just
Yes,
allowed?
it's
Okay,
noted in the
perfect.
It's fine, thank you. Okay, so nominations and renominations.
I'll make a motion to approve the nominations and resignations list dated September 11th, 2024.
Okay, motion by MJ, can I get a second? Mary, all right, thank you. Any questions or observations about these? Yes?
So just for clarification, I see there's a little switcheroo in the nurses, but there's no effective date. So what are we thinking about effective dates?
It will be effective when the MLS position is filled and that person is ready to start. I don't believe we received the packet as of yet, but I do believe it is targeting towards the end of the month.
It's literally in your box.
Okay. So, yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll vote on approving the nominations and renominations. Kevin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
MJ?
Yes.
I'm a yes. John?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Tia?
Yes.
And Richard?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, that moves us, so our student report, she did contact us, actually.
Yes.
She did.
She did.
Yeah, so I'm going to fill in. I'm sure you'd rather have her speak, but I'll be brief. The Student Center is alive and well. They're trying to figure out, you know, what spaces to occupy. It's really 9 through 12 in there, occupying that space at a different time. What a wonderful addition. I know I keep saying that. We just feel fortunate to have it. NEASC report is fully submitted. We're in the halls a lot. And again, you have children that go there, so you might be getting, you know, a perspective that I don't have, which is always the case. But I feel that we're in a good place. The lunchroom is good. Kids are behaving themselves. You know, we have had issues in the past. I won't be specific about it that we don't have in play right now. You know, the kids where we've struggled to have relationships perhaps within the past. Again, every year is a new year. We feel like we've made some real progress in some of those situations. We have open house next week. Let's see, what else?
Freshman trip on.
You go on the class hike tomorrow. And what did you say, Wendy?
That's what the class hike.
Yeah, class hike. Class hike tomorrow. Colin gets to go on that, so I stay. But it's supposed to be a beautiful day, which is good. I think everyone save for 2 kids is attending, so that's good. So we're in a good spot right now, and I keep saying this and I reference it, but having nice weather at the start of school makes such a difference. So we just have a kind of a healthy vibe in the building. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And as parents of children, I know you're on the school board, feel free to call me. You know, don't hesitate to do that because you're on the board. I have a feeling you wouldn't anyway, but that's the case. We welcome that communication. And SMORE is we figured it out. We've got some good reviews on that. But it's so much easier to see and to read on a personal device. So yeah, things are good.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Ian? No? All good reports at my house, though. Good.
Your son is enjoying the space.
Yes, he is. He's there all the time. I did know that. All right. Okay, let's see. We'll move on to the SAU leadership team updates.
Thank you. First thing I want to talk about is your enrollment report, which was included in your packet. Just to highlight Mount Lebanon School, a week ago they were at 248 students. The largest class size is in 2nd grade with the highest of 19 students. Moving on to Hanover Street, they are at 317 students. As you know, their highest class sizes are in 3rd and 4th grade, where the highest class being 21 students. LMS, you have here some class sizes of 5th and 6th grade. Again, 5th grade we knew had a higher class size, and they are at 467 students. Moving on to the high school, I just wanted to point out our 9th grade class is our largest class in the building of 170 students compared to our 135 seniors. Next year, just looking at some projections with Plainfield enrolling, we are probably looking in the mid-150s. So I see that trend coming up throughout. So I think we'll see that steady enrollment, less of the 135s and more of that 150 piece. I think it's important for us to continue to keep an eye on these, especially as new developments are being talked about and planned.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
So I think part of the reason that we sort of structured Hanover Street School the way that we did as far as grades, number of classrooms per grade, is because we felt more comfortable having 3rd and 4th grade have more students.
Correct.
So just a curiosity question. At Mount Leb, is there a reason that we decided to only go with 2 classrooms of 2nd grade and not 2 classrooms of 3rd? Like, does that?
They had a large enrollment in 2nd grade at the end of the year, so those numbers weren't what we projected last spring.
Okay.
Good question.
Yeah, Jessica.
I want to say I really appreciate the enrollment reports that you've been including each month. It's very helpful, and I really appreciate it. And I think we you've mentioned, I believe, before that it would be great to have them include, I don't want to constantly be adding on to the helpful things that you're providing at the same time. I think that like snapshots are sort of, it would be great if there were some tracking of years in terms
Longitudinal.
of like, yeah, longitudinal enrollment
Sure.
numbers. So I think that like, I'll just bring that up, and to the extent that that's possible to start incorporating, that would be great, because I find this very helpful and grounding, and so.
And just so you know, we do get those in our budget packets, just so we are gonna get those, and we have them in our previous budget packets, but yes, that would be good to have
Yeah,
weekly.
I think it's the fact of being able to sort of like have that as part of what we look at each month is very helpful, and I think it's more helpful with just a smidgen of context.
Sure.
So, thank you.
And I think, sort of piggybacking on that slightly, is if, like, I wouldn't know unless I pulled up the last report if there had been change. So
Okay.
maybe just some
Increase,
note that
decrease, sure.
we had 2 come in, 2 go out, where that happened, why that, yeah.
We do, we have a report called the October 1st report, which is sort of our official enrollment, our official enrollment date. So that's when we report to our Plainfield and grant them to. So I'll be able to, next month, be able to provide that data for you, so. All right. Next, I'd like to make you aware of a public records request that we received on September 5th from an investigative reporter for a nonprofit called Parents Defending Education. They are requesting copies of any documents or other materials, including policies or presentations shown to staff that serve as guidelines or guidance within the districts for students who identify as transgender or non-binary. They're also asking if we use gender support plans, and if we do, they're requesting support plan templates. So my team has been working on this public records request, and it is currently with our attorney. And then if we have those documents, we will turn them over to the investigative reporter. But I wanted to make the community aware. This was a request. From what I'm hearing, this request went out widespread across the state of New Hampshire and Maine. Principal Smith had mentioned NEASC, which is our New England Association for School and Colleges. I just wanted to make you aware the high school is going to have an accreditation visit. They are coming to the high school on October 15th and 16th. While I'm making you aware, they are asking for a school board visit during that time, so I will work with Lil and Principal Smith to get a schedule when part of this group can come in to talk to the NEAS team. So
We don't know how many
they're
wanting
requesting.
wanting to talk to, so we'll get some more information, and then we'll get back to you all.
All right. I sent an email today, open house, ribbon cutting ceremony for our new school facilities. We have targeted date for Wednesday, September 25th at 5:30. 5:30 will be the ribbon cutting. We're going to do that right outside the high school, and then we will bring people in tours for the high school and Hanover Street School. Following the ribbon cutting ceremony, we will have our school board meeting being held at the Hanover Street cafeteria. So we will get a press release and information out to our family and community. Any questions about that? Finally, I just wanted to provide an update and get feedback on the Hanover Street Early Childhood Preschool Room. We met, and then Leah met with the Montessori school. They are interested in pursuing this further. They are really only interested in a preschool component, not to go earlier than that. And they did say that they would consider doing the 42 weeks. So I wanted to see if this is something that we wanted to continue at this point. I know last week we heard from Principal Roach in our preschool at Mount Leb, is already at capacity. So this is something that we want to address in conversations at budget time, if we are going to look to expand our own preschool, or is this something that we want to continue with an outside partner? So any feedback would be appreciated.
So it sounds like they're saying they're only interested in providing a preschool.
Yeah, they're not interested in the early childhood
Yeah,
component.
And the plan that we were working on with the Boys and Girls Club had from age 1 or age 2, I can't remember.
I believe it was age 2,
Age 2.
but they wanted to do the full year
Yeah.
component.
I mean, I'd be interested to know what the staff who would be a sort of, we were targeted with this program, sort of what the need is there, but my suspicion is that the, 2-year-old and 3-year-old part of that program is pretty important, since that's a pretty tight area in terms of childcare in the Upper Valley. The older they get, the slightly easier it gets.
Correct.
So I suspect that the younger ages is kind of an important piece, and but I think the program, as described, has been targeted at sort of helping faculty or staff, and so I'd be curious, but my suspicion is that that's important.
Just a quick question. Is the Montessori preschool, does that begin at age 3, as some of the other local ones do, or is it begins if you turn 3 before September the 1st?
I believe it is, you have to be 3 to enroll.
I think Immersion
Okay.
Montessori offers a regular, a young kid program.
I'm not sure for that. I'd have to get back to you on that piece, so. I know this.
I know the Montessori school on Etna Road, because we've been thinking about sending Everett there, and they'll take him as soon as he's 3. So, not on a schedule.
They do provide infant, toddler, in their own program.
So I would love to get feedback from the staff also, because I'm sure the age is a big factor. And I would want them to be informed that the younger age group could also mean year-round, right? So it wouldn't be that shorter only during the school year. And I think knowing how they would balance that and what they prioritize, would they rather have younger and pay for the year-round potentially? Or would they rather just hold off a year and not need to worry about paying for it over the summer?
It's also a little concerning, I guess, that it's just very interesting that they're kind of restricting their ability to, or sort of indicating that they only have the ability to provide a certain subset of what we're really looking for. I think that, to me, indicates they may already be kind of perhaps at their own capacity, and so I'd be curious about how confident they are that they would actually be able to really provide the program.
My wonder too, though, is I think that there's different ratios depending upon the age group, and if you're in a single classroom, it just may be that they feel like they can get more kids into the program if in a single room if they start at 3.
Yeah.
And then they're also not often dealing with potty training or that kind of thing, or diapers. But I think personally, I'm interested in having, I'm more curious about what the expansion of our own preschool program might be. I'm open to the conversation about sort of like, I'm not, like the Montessori piece is, like, I'm not opposed to that. I think I'm less leaning to a daycare room, and so,
I mean, I think it would be helpful to get something in writing from them,
Mhm.
like an actual proposal. I think it's hard to talk about like a phone conversation or
Mhm.
whatever. Because then we would be able to, we've seen a proposal or sort of a proposal from Boys and Girls Club,
Yep.
and then we've had trouble with that. But it would be good to have just something to respond to. And I mean, I echo the people's responses of like, is this going to fill the need that we hope that it would fill?
Right.
And I think we just have to ask our people.
Yeah, I think, so I can have them work on drafting something, but at the same time survey staff, making sure that's not this false hope, but that we're still trying to explore options and to make sure we're exploring the option that best fits the most people.
yeah, because I'm not, I mean, I understand the want to provide childcare for our staff, but that to me isn't the primary reason for that room. And if we've got a waiting list for a preschool, we know that those are Lebanon resident kids, so.
We also know, though, that the difference between those kind of preschool that we can put into play with ours is going to require a totally different amount of staffing, and it's different. It's going to be more than sort of when it's being paid for by an outside contract. So we have to balance all of that, of course. But yeah, we're just interested to see what they are proposing.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Okay. Thank you for your feedback, and that concludes my update.
Okay, then we'll move on to the business administrator update.
Last week I filed the DOE 25, went back and forth a little bit, and they accepted it Friday or Monday. So we're going to talk a little bit about the numbers that matter most to you here. The whole DOE 25 is in your packet, the whole first tab. We're not going to go over it tonight, but you can certainly look at it at your leisure. I do need signatures tonight. It's a big spreadsheet, and it actually serves two purposes. It gets filed to the Department of, well, it's still called the DOE 25, but they're in New Hampshire Ed now. But I need two signatures, one for the Department of Ed and one on the Department of Revenue, signing for the same thing before you go home, please. Because although they have the report, they need signatures. What this report says, it's right at, it's the bottom line up front. If you're on the report, it's on the bottom of page 1. I'm reporting an unassigned fund balance of $1,349,132.31. That, the easiest way to describe it is that is the money that's going back to offset taxes. So our the first slide, sorry, I'm trying to be organized, but the first slide shows that there was $1 million, when you guys approved the budget last year, and we said the tax rate was going to be a $1.37 increase, that assumed there was $1 million to offset taxes. There's no particular obligation to turn back $1 million, except for a couple that are, one, that if it's less than $1 million, the taxes are going to be higher, so you look bad. And two, when you write that in the warrant article, then you have to save the $1 million before you can fund any cap reserve fund. So that's why all year I obsess about that. If you made that number lower next year, for example, you would need to save less money before you funded the cap reserve, but the offset is it's going to look at the taxes are increasing more in your proposed budget. So anyway, for our purposes, we wanted to have $1.85 million to turn back to taxpayers. $850,000 went in our two cap reserve funds, $600,000 into our building fund, $250,000 in our special ed fund. I say when. I'll be writing the checks this fall after we get out of it next week. So those will be funded $1 million, and then $1.3 million will go back to offset taxes. What in effect that means is that instead of $1.37, if all the revenues remains the same, and the revenue is the piece that the DRA is putting together this fall, based on projected revenues that we had last year, and I don't have any reason to think they changed, at least didn't go down, our tax rate to the voters should be 12 cents lower than what we thought it would be, which is good. That's what the $300,000 more than $1 million means. That makes sense. So we said it was going to be a $1.37 increase. It'll probably be $1.25-ish, unless revenues are drastically different. low side. Does that make any sense? Make sense? So that's what, of all this DOE 25, the very first page, the number that is the most important number to the Department of Revenue is page 1, line 35, column 1, says 1.349132. That's the unassigned fund balance. And you'll see right above that, the 2.5, the unassigned fund balance retained, that's in page 1, line 32, column 1, 958,898. That's the 2.5% I keep talking about. So the voters allowed and I don't want to get too confusing. That money is retained every year, so that's not money that we didn't spend this year. That was money that was retained last year, and every year technically the retention goes away, and then you have to re-retain it. So I'm assuming you want to retain the full to the fullest extent. That's why I said 958. If you want to retain less and put the rest and put the difference into the fund balance, I could file an amended DOE 25, but that's not what we've typically done. It just dawned on me that we probably should have this conversation. If you're serious about doing that, we need to have this conversation like in May or something, so I can make that number lower. And that money is reserved for usage that might come up in some sort of emergency. It's almost like a cap reserve fund. It's money that you can't, I just can't spend. The board has to give authorization in a board meeting. You have to have a public hearing. But if you had something that came up that you needed to spend money on above the budget that was already approved by the voters, you can do that. 65.6, right above that, is the money that you approved at the end of the year expenses and the $850,000 of the 2 cap reserve funds. That's still on page, I'm on page 1 of the DOE 25.
So we don't have, or at least I don't have line numbers in the printed out document. There's not line numbers.
Oh, okay.
So,
I went deep into the packet, I'm sorry.
okay.
So
Yeah,
I actually wasn't going to.
I'll next, but
You see how it says, next to the name, it says 1?
yes.
That means page 1. This is DOE Parlance. So the ones mean page 1, the next line is the line number. So they tell me something's wrong on page 1, line 23, there's something wrong. That means that's.
And so when you're saying line 65,
32.
35.
The highest number on this page is page 1, line 37 is the very last line on there.
yes, okay. Sorry, I must have misread that.
So I'm sorry.
That was where I got confused.
So all that stuff's in your packet, and the rest of the fund, you can see they're all broken down by funds, and the other funds are not relevant to your tax rate, but that's all the money that the district runs every year. And the next slide, now we're back to the slides, I just wanted to show you some of the unexpended funds, and as I tried to say, this total, I just tried to pick some of the major categories. It does not equal the unassigned fund balance because we had money left over and we put stuff here and put stuff there. So the unassigned fund balance is the money we didn't put anywhere. And that's going back to the taxpayers. So you'll see that we had $112,000 left in wages across the district. The big one is benefits, $757,900. Some of that is a premium holiday, so we get year by year. If there's money that the healthcare company is required to give back to its members by law, they give it to us by taking it off our bill. But according to our auditors and best practices, that we still budget for the full 12 months, even if we get a month free or half a month free. So that does lead to what looks like money left over. But the auditors say that's the most proper way to do it. And the biggest reason, maybe the biggest reason why, is that in 1 year, if we don't have a premium holiday that comes back, then you're going to see a big, huge bump in your budgeted healthcare because we have to budget the last month. It's only about $100,000 of that is the premium holiday this year. So that's choices. You could say it's Tim, you didn't budget right. When I do the budget, I budget what people have picked. If there's vacancies, I budget for a family plan. And sometimes that leads to some overages. I did want to point out we had $400,000 of unexpended supplies, $200,000 in utilities. To me, that's a brag. I guess I'm trying to say we can maybe budget a little tighter, but we're always looking for the best. So we're budgeting this fall, for example, for propane and oil, and we try to budget enough to not over budget, but it's really disconnected from what we can actually buy propane and oil for in the spring. So we try to budget, we can't just take this year's number that we have and plus it up 5% because it really depends on the market. So we do tend to, in the last few years, over budget a little bit because we've been able to get good prices on propane, but especially, and oil, both of them. But most of our ability, we use propane at the high school and we use pellets here and ML Lab. So it's not really the pellets that we over budget, it's really the propane. We get budgeted, I think we budgeted 230 and we got it at 139 a gallon. Always looking at that, but I mean, and you know, guys know I did that for a while. I know how volatile the market can be, so I don't want to leave us short. And I guess I would reassure you that if we do have $200,000 left in utilities, we give it back to the taxpayers. And did you see the equipment and dues? I wanted to point out that we were in total across regular ed and special ed, $71,000 to the negative on tuition. So it was a bad tuition year. Maybe not that bad, it's been worse. The next page of the slides, Kevin pointed out, I didn't label my axes. Along the bottom is the fiscal year, and along the side is it X and Y? is obviously a dollar amount. So we started this chart a bunch of years ago to show one of the missions that I was given when I got here for my first budget was fiscal year 2015, was to take control, try to keep those spikes, those huge unassigned fund balances, just make them better. So I think we've done a pretty good job. It's in black and white here, but the different colors in 2020, 2021, 23, and 24, I'm trying to represent those are excess revenues, so those have to go back. So there was one year, last year, there was a move by the legislature to reimburse districts for the teacher, 7% of the teacher contribution to the New Hampshire retirement system. So I wanted to just pay less, but that's not how it worked. They actually gave the money, and so it's kind of a pass-through, and it would have been better if we just could have reduced our budget by $400,000, but that's not how the legislature wanted it. Anyway, the mission is to hopefully keep that reasonable, again, keeping in mind that this fall, whatever you guys want to put in the money to deduct from the budget is for what's going to be on fund balance contribution. I feel strongly that we need to try to hit that so we can fund cap reserves and that you guys don't look like you're over-promising in a budget. So.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yes.
So on the years that don't have the colors, does that mean there wasn't the unassigned fund balance total didn't include the revenue, the increase?
It always includes revenues. I didn't go back and do research before 2014.
So we don't know
So
what.
some of that's probably revenue, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
So. And I just add another year every year. Next year I'll try to figure out how to add. I can figure it out, Kevin. I'm just being.
And legends. And a legend.
Legend. Yeah. This is a context from a meeting where Kevin told me to run a chart, and I'm like, I'm not that good at charts. And then the next day, he's like, your chart's missing axes. That's the context. All right, so what's going to happen over the next few weeks is that we have different topics that will cover a lot of different things that are found in the DOE 25 and other places. But we'll talk about we'll talk about food service fund, the special ed reserve fund. We'll talk more about the facilities, it still says facilities improvement projects, but we're working on a new CIP. Anyway, we have 3 more of these chapters. What we're doing next is we put a schedule out to meet with the principals the week of October 15th and meet with you guys the next week. So I guess I don't need it tonight, but over the next couple of days, we have to figure out what your schedules are like for the week of October 21-ish. You know, can go a day or 2 either way, I suppose. So obviously a lot of moving parts. There's 2 of you assigned to each building, and then there's Amy and the other administrators, so we have to figure out what time it works. So
you're just going to send us an email and ask for availability?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'd love for Lori to do it like
Yep.
last year.
Somebody will send us
Yes.
an email. That'd be great.
I won't be at the next board meeting, so your next chapter, hopefully 2 and 3 will be the first week of October. Oh, the other thing on the agenda is a construction update. I mean, it's to no surprise, I think. We're in all the rooms. Ekman told me yesterday that they should have final occupancy official from the city, and hope it in a few days, by the end of the week, I think he said. But all the rooms are done, they look great, we walked around yesterday. That is to say, there's still punch lists of things, a thing here, a thing there has to be fixed, but, or they missed or whatever, but they look great. The nurse was moving in the other day. Room 102, which was paid for from end of the year funds, is done, looks great. Amy pointed out that the art room, the art teacher loves her new sink.
I've never seen someone so happy to have a new sink. It's wonderful. I think when you stop by, if she's there, she'll show it to you.
A few things we're still working on that are owner's responsibility that are in the process, like not all the doors are fobbed yet. I think Tyler's still working on getting landline phones in the new classrooms, but just stuff like that that's coming together is really great.
Some new kindergartners at Hanover Street School reported that the cafeteria is their favorite room. So, there you go.
Oh, I guess it is important to note, first, to make the kitchen basically a fully preparing kitchen, just about, to the extent that Cafe Services or Fresh Picks wants it to be. They wanted a steamer, so in the kitchen in Hanover Street, they want a steamer and a convection oven. We're in the works of getting those using construction funds. It looks like we're going to have a little more, maybe $120,000 of contingency money. So they built a budget of $14 million, and there was money that was not assigned to anything to cover mistakes, or not mistakes, unknowns. So of that money, there's like $120,000 left. We're going to take the money for those two appliances out of that. We're working on that, and once we get those installed, Fresh Picks will be able to do about 90% of the food for Hanover Street in the Hanover Street kitchen. So they're pretty happy about that. We're happy about that. And the last piece of that will be a conversation that I'd like to have with you, Amy and I would like to have with you over the next few weeks, is the rest of that contingency and the remaining funds from the interest that was made. And we purposely, conservatively, conservatively estimated what the bank would be making interest, and that's how we ended up doing the special ed room, the art, and the nurses stuff. I think it was $850,000 or somewhere. It looks like we were going to make a little over $1 million. So it looks like we're between the contingency and the rest of the remaining funds, we're probably going to have between probably $250 or so to spend. Has to be spent there, and we were talking with Paul yesterday. I think we're going to probably propose, after some more talking, is probably doing the entryway of Hanover Street, which we all wanted to do. We don't have enough money to move that stairway, for example. That's probably $500,000. But Hanover Street could use a new entrance and some landscaping that was in there. Right now, it's obviously just like the same old, same old. So I think that's exciting, and obviously it's your choice, but that's what I think we're going to pursue what the cost would be and get you some drawings.
Any questions for Tim about these?
I'd like to congratulate the business administrator and the superintendent on what looks to me like a very successful sort of end of year for last year in terms of the budget sort of planning and execution, and I think it feels like a very careful and considered use of taxpayer money, and very sort of wound up where we wanted it to wind up, and I feel like you deserve congratulations for that, so thank you very much.
I would assure the board that we've talked a lot about what we can do next year. I think we can look at how we're budgeting summer school. I'm not saying to cut it, but to have more strategic budgeting around it. We can do a better job on the back end of the year as far as, even though I tell everybody to do POs, sort of come up with a process to make the POs be smoother and accurate, and meaning you buy what you need and that's it. So I do think that we have to continue to try to work to, especially in these probably tough times the next 5 years, to make sure that we budget accurately. So appreciate the compliment, and I just want to assure you we're keeping driving.
I just have one tiny question. This dues and fees, what are those?
Those would be, I can get you a breakdown from the budget time, but they tend to be things like money to go to state parks, or that might be
Association
fees. So those, I mean, the principal budgets have a pretty good breakdown when they do it.
That's fine.
So,
Hadn't thought about it before.
yeah. Tolls, I suppose, if we go through tolls, but it's kind of that random.
Any other? Great, thank you. Okay, we are moving on to the DDECIA update.
Hi, everybody. You have in your packet a set of slides called Summer Update. It looks like this, but not quite so colorful, and I think it's sort of towards the back, maybe, of your packet. I know you have a really crowded agenda today, so I will just briefly share some of these highlights. I shared this information with the EC in more detail on Monday. So, highlights of our summer work in the district included, we ran, I'm going to give you a minute to just locate that. I'll just stand here. Let me find the information. It's way back. It's cheerful and has pencils on the bottom.
Wait for that. You don't have to wait for me. I'll find it sometime.
I'm going to keep talking while the last few people continue the shuffling of papers. So we ran 3 summer school programs as we usually do this summer, serving students from preschool all the way through rising to 12th grade. We have our credit recovery program at the high school and a Rising K to Rising 8 program that's focused on academic skill building, and a program serving our youngest students, our incoming 3- and 4-year-olds in preschool. Details are on these slides. Again, I won't walk through them, but feedback from faculty and from families was overwhelmingly positive, and the programs were successful. We served over 150 students over the course of the summer. We also engaged in a lot of wonderful curriculum work. I encourage you to, when you have time later on, take a look at the slide that's testimonials from the faculty around just how meaningful it is to have a district that supports curriculum work over the summer. It really is the time that teachers can dive deeply into curriculum and pedagogy, integrate the two, and work with team members. And so highlights of that included capacity building for our Take Flight project, alignment projects across the district. Again, curriculum work was done from preschool all the way through the high school. And a particular achievement was productive curriculum work in math and ELA for our elementary school grade band. Finally, we have some really successful summer professional learning. In addition to the graduate courses and workshops that our teachers regularly engage in, this summer we were able to leverage grant funding to promote even more professional learning in the district. Some highlights included a team of 8 that attended project-based learning conference in California. We also brought our entire leadership team once again to the Principals Academy for important training and team cohesion time in August. And a real highlight was just the sheer number of our elementary educators who committed to Science of Reading Aligned training this summer in support of our new ELA programs. There's a slide highlighting the details, but just in summary, it was overwhelming. A ton of hours of professional learning, all grant funded, and we had just tremendous buy-in, which is terrific to see. Those are the highlights. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask me?
I just want to thank Karen for working tirelessly on those grants to make sure we are spending our grant dollars and not returning them to the state. So thank you.
It's an ongoing process.
He's getting good at it.
Well, thank you. And Tim's department and Shaylee Briggs in our business office really is invaluable to that process as well. So I just want to give Shaylee a big shout out. She's very helpful in the grants management side of things. If you have no other questions, if anything comes up, feel free to always ask via email. I will add, last year during our discussion of the school calendar, there was just a robust discussion here when it came to the board in the winter. So I wanted to just make you all aware, the building of that school calendar for the 2025-26 school year actually begins in October. And we spend a lot of time in October and November working with drafts of the calendar and making sure that the details align with everything from our partner schools and districts to our collective bargaining agreement and our faculty needs and our student family needs. Recalling that last year there were a lot of questions from this group, I just wanted to invite all of the board members, if you would like to be part of that process or provide input to me as we begin the process, please just reach out to me. Again, we can set up a time to talk. I can tell you a little bit more about the parameters of the calendar building, and I just would love to invite your input right from the get-go this year. So I just wanted to share that invite.
So,
And
part of it, I would think we might have to wait if there's any changes during negotiations related to like date stuff, or
Does the contract go through, when is the contract?
it would start next year, right?
No, it wouldn't start until, right, it gets approved in March and go to, well, yeah,
Starts
because it go into effect in July, so it
Yeah.
would start, yeah, for the next school year.
we will need to approve the calendar prior to March, I would think. So we'll have to build a
Maybe
calendar
It's no
with
different
the
than any other
current
year.
constraints.
I mean, any other negotiation year, contract changes could
Mean that we have
affect
to
the
affect
calendar,
the
maybe
calendar.
that something has to be revised, so.
So we just know we have to be flexible because of,
At this point, I'm going to build the calendar with the existing
right.
parameters.
That's all you can do.
And we do.
Right?
That's all you can do.
Unless
Right.
you all
That's
tell
all-
me
that's
to
all
do
you
something
can do.
different
Right.
than that.
That's all you do. That's what we do. We build it and we just
Yeah.
know that it's going to may shift depending on what happens.
Right, just, it's next year, like this year, the 25th falls in a predicament of,
There are some years when it's more difficult just because of the way that the calendar days fall. So again, this is one of the reasons that I'm just saying, if you have input related to whatever stakeholder groups you feel that you're here representing, I'd welcome hearing it. That's all I got for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for Kent? Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we are going to move on to talk about the strategic plan proposal under unfinished business. Before we do that, just want to let everyone know, after the 9A strategic plan proposal discussion, we're going to have a brief non-public in the middle of the meeting because we've got some scheduling conflicts. So we're going to do a non-public, and then we'll come back and finish talking about second readings and first readings of our policies. So just FYI. And Richard, when we do that, one of us will call you and we'll move you into the other room. So just so you know. Okay, great. All right, so strategic plan proposal.
Thank you. So tonight, you have lots of documents in your packet, and I'm asking you if we could take action on selecting a company and a proposal to move forward with the strategic plan. So as you requested, I did put out a spreadsheet outlining the criteria. For the proposal, you have example proposals in your packet of both groups. My recommendation is to move with proposal B. One of the highlights from there, I believe, was they started with the community stakeholders first versus a planning committee, and they really put that community building, stakeholder building throughout. Also, there's an opportunity to meet with faculty, which I think is really important because we need to, if our strategic plan is defining what educators and leaders need to know, we need to make sure what resources they're going to need to have. So I believe their proposal will help us achieve our goals of supporting innovative partnerships with non-traditional learning, examining elementary education through equity lens, analyzing our use of resources such as our SAU building, which will result in a customized strategic plan to move the Lebanon School District forward. Does anyone have any specific questions?
I have a couple questions, just mostly information, but it looks like, I think you were involved in this one with 2 revolutions before, right? It seems like,
In Manchester, my name's a lot.
There's
There,
some
yeah, I was,
assignments
as the
there.
assistant superintendent, I had a big responsibility
yeah.
in the district. Yeah, so I was.
So you're familiar with
Yeah,
their
yeah,
approach
and they're also the group that did the visioning session here at the middle school too. So, and the other group is the group that did the superintendent search.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, visually, it's a much more appealing report. It looks much
Right.
more comprehensive.
And I know they are involved in other ones. I didn't have those ones included in their proposal. Was the Tahoe one. So I did look to see if they had anything else, because it was such a truncated piece that that district chose to post.
Yeah, thanks for pulling all these together. I think, I guess I had just a couple questions of, again, who is this document aimed at? Is it aimed for the community? Is it aimed at administration?
All the above,
teachers?
really.
That's the idea.
Yeah, I think it will be heavily voiced within those community and stakeholders, so there's those buy-ins. It should have that roadmap for educators, so they know the vision of what we're going, and as well as our building leaders. And as for our board, especially as we look at policy and budgets and financials around CIP and our building stuff, all that stuff could be built in there.
Yeah, I think, and I also like that it has the key steps, the timing of those things. I think that's very actionable. I think the one piece I think it's missing, at least for me, maybe people can speak to this, is just for each of these, what's the measurable, what's the outcome, right?
I think on the side, I know exactly what you're kind of talking to is,
Because I guess my biggest concern is that we go through
measures that they're called leading indicators on the back, healthier finances as evidenced by balanced budgets, increased student enrollments.
But I guess for each of
page
these strategies, it
24.
Seems like there should be something for each of the sort of strategies.
More underneath them, yeah.
Because my biggest concern is we do this, we put out this expense, and then it just goes in a drawer somewhere, and nothing.
Right, I think, from when I was interviewing from the district and then throughout my first year, I did hear that our strategic plan needed some work. And it should be a tool that we're all looking at and making decisions that we base the things on. That should be kind of our North Star and our focus.
Any other comments or input for Amy? So we are doing this because we had sort of wanted more information, because we wanted to make an informed decision about who we were going to move forward with. So I think we need to decide, based on what we've got from the two plans, based on what from the two providers, and based on the analysis that Amy did and our own readings of those things, we need to decide which one we're going with and take action on that. So I need a motion at some point.
I move that we accept the superintendent's proposal to work with Two Revolutions on the strategic plan for the Lebanon School District.
I'll second it. Okay, thank you. Motion by Jessica, second by Mary. Is there any additional comments or input?
I'll just make a comment. I think that, I agree with the superintendent's recommendation, but I also think it's the most fiscally responsible, because if you look at in the cost section, there's only a base fee for the first company, and the second company is pretty much an all-inclusive number, so I think it's easier for budgeting purposes and to come up with the money as well. There's not going to be a lot of surprises, hopefully, at the end, when, it's kind of known with the travel, what that will be. So I think this is a better, more fiscally responsible choice for the district as well.
I just have one question. I know that our strategic plan our previous one was somewhat ineffective, but it was super detailed. And not that that means that it was good. Do you have a sense whether the administrators feel like the sample that we have from Two Revolutions is going to be helpful to them and as a guiding document, and sort of clear to them the expectation? Do you know what I'm asking?
No. I think, I don't want to speak on behalf of them, but when we go through to try to get measurable data of our existing plan, that's a chore, and sometimes it's not really applicable to the work that we're doing. So I think by engaging them heavily in this process, I think we can iron out some of those pieces.
And so you feel like the end result of what we'll get will be able to be a clear guiding document around expectations.
Absolutely.
And I think what Kevin is saying, sort of measurable.
Yeah, I would like to see too,
And not
it's
just
really
like
those-
generalized statements.
No, and benchmark, like what benchmarks are we looking for year 1, year 2, year 3? Like some of in the plans, we might identify something aspirational that we know it's probably not going to be in the 5 years. It could be 10, but we can note that because I think that's important for boards to be able to see that kind of going forward, like where are we going to be
Well, I
in
think
a
sometimes
5-year, 10-year.
we haven't really necessarily had like we haven't really set goals around, like we want to see our reading proficiency increase, blah, like, so, are there sort of measurable educational outcomes for our students that we're actually trying to?
Right. I think that would part of be that growing our learners, so we could actually take our state assessments and our district assessments and looking to see where we're trending.
Yeah.
How we're performing in reading, math, and science. I think from the state reports, you can see science across the state, especially 5, 8, and 11. They're not making the gains that we've seen in reading, so that's maybe something that comes out that we want to target that piece for that. And then hopefully comes into our budget time and saying, how are we going to support the teachers so we can make sure our students are making those growth marks. So I think it'll allow us to kind of prioritize. I know we came up with a lot of ideas in those board goals too, and it's an opportunity at that point, I think, to be able to flesh some of those out, start times. So as we're creating those community stakeholder groups, I think those ideas can be embedded within there.
And I do like in their process description, their scope of work section, they do talk about the level of engagement that all of these groups are going to have. And I think what that says to me is that we get to dictate what we want, right? Like we get to say, we want measurables in all of these places. We want to use the data and push it in this direction or that direction, but it's going to require us and the administrative teams to be actively engaged in the process, which I think will give a better product anyway. But it looks like they're anticipating and welcoming that kind of active engagement as opposed to dictating it has to look like this schools or it has to look like this schools, but it can be what we need it to be. So I like that part of the scope.
And I think in order to have any strategic plan successful, it has to be the district strategic plan. It can't come from the superintendent because that buy-in is so important. So people have to feel like they've been heard.
Well, and their tax dollars are paying for all of this, so.
Yes.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Is it a 3-year or a 5-year? That wasn't clear to me.
I think we can determine how far we want to plan out.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, so we have a motion to accept the
Approve
proposals.
the superintendent's recommendation.
Thank you. We're going to do another roll call vote. All those in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
MJ?
Yes.
I'm a yes. John?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Tia?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, appreciate that. Okay, so we are going to sorry, I'm just like blanking on what we're doing. We're going to move into non-public session. Do I need to do a thing? Yes, what do I need to do? Yes, the motion when it's on. I need a motion to move into non-public. See, I totally lost. Motion, it's on the back here.
Are we only discussing one matter?
We're
So
having,
So we just need to clarify what we're doing for each thing.
Yeah.
I think it's
Personnel.
C.
And legal.
I make a motion to move into non-public under NHRSA 91A32C.
For two, you just probably want to say for twos.
For two separate items.
For two separate items.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Tia. Kevin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Mary? Yes. MJ?
Yes.
I'm a yes. John?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Tia?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
All right, and we will call you in just a minute from the non-public room. to call the meeting back to order. I'm going to make sure that Richard is with us. Yes, he is online. And just note that MJ DiDomenico has left the meeting. Okay? All right. Back to unfinished business, second reading of several policies.
So I'll make a motion to adopt the policies listed under unfinished business, B through I, and then K, and then K.
Okay. All right, motion, can I get a second? Tia seconds. All right, is there any additional comments for the second reading of this? Should be not very much.
Thank you, Policy Committee.
Yes, thank you, Policy Committee, that is the truth. Thank you, Policy Committee. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and vote to approve the second reading of,
To adopt.
to adopt the second reading of B through I and K under unfinished business. Kevin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
I'm a yes. John?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Tia?
Yes.
And Richard?
Yep.
Okay, great.
And then I'll make a motion.
Wow, that is a delay.
Sorry.
And then I'll make a motion to withdraw policy GBCD-R,
Which is letter J.
which is letter J.
Okay. All right, and can I get a second?
I'll
By
second.
Tia. All right, we're withdrawing this, so any additional comment? No? All right, we'll go ahead and vote to withdraw GBCDR-R. Kevin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
I'm a yes. John?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Tia?
Yes.
And Richard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That moves us on to new business.
So, are there any policies that we need to pull out?
Hold on. I have one question on JKAA. It's a little bit of a substantive question, but beyond that. Oh, and then one question on GBK, which is a clarifying question.
I only have a clarifying question on GBEK.
Richard, do you have any big concerns?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. So do you want to just do our questions on those two?
So I'll just make a motion unless you think that,
No, go ahead.
okay. So, I will make a motion to move policies listed under new business A and B, and then D through O. For a second reading.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, second motion by Wendy, second by Tia. All right, so now we can ask your question.
Yep.
So JKAA, which is use of restraints and seclusion. Where is it? Sorry, I just lost my question. Oh, here it is. On C3, which is on page 4. C3, page 4, JKAA C3, page 4. So it says, all employees, designated volunteers, and other persons who are required to have criminal history background checks under Board Policy GBCD receive general training in the requirements and prohibitions of this policy, as well as basic de-escalation procedures. So, to my understanding, designated volunteers do have a criminal history background check, but they do not receive any training at all currently. And certainly not in the requirements and prohibitions of basic de-escalation procedures. So we can do that, that's great, I think we should be doing that, but our current practice, as far as I know, is right here.
Okay, number 3.
So because designated volunteers have to have the criminal background check, but they don't get any other training besides that. There's no, and this is saying that they will get.
They don't do volunteering training?
I mean, no, unless it's changed a bunch. So we can just check into that.
Okay, we'll check on, and we,
But we wouldn't, so under C, it just says the restraint may only be used by, implemented by trained staff. So would we want our designated volunteers to,
receive basic de-escalation procedures. I mean, this is restraint. Basic de-escalation is probably good, actually, without restraint. And so I think we should be doing this. I just don't know that we are, for our designated volunteers at least.
I can check into that. We just had to add the de-escalation procedure training this year. That was a change in the state law. So I know all of our staff members this year it's part of our requirement. So I can follow up and get back to you on that before the second.
So at least the designated volunteers would need to do something like that. Okay, that was my
Thank you.
only question for that one. John, what was your GBK?
My GBK question was, it's an optional policy, and do we actually want or need the policy? I don't want to over-policy us. And I feel like if there's an issue, there are grievance procedures in the collective bargaining agreements. But I would defer to Amy.
Yes, I think I did, through the policy, go through this, and I thought it was really important that we, although the grievance policies are outlined, is that we make sure people understand that there is a chain of command too for complaint processes, that rather than coming straight to me, I really try to have people address the building level principal first. But I am always cautious about over-policing ourselves since we've had long policy meetings, but I think this is important.
And so my next question would be, are there clear chain of command documents in each of our buildings? I know this one had one, but does the high school and the elementary schools have a clear document outlining chain of command? I just want to make sure.
I will get back to you for that second reading of that.
Because, for example, I just think of things like an ed assistant who's going to the principal, when in actuality they should be going to the assistant principal as their supervisor.
Correct.
Those types of things. So
And that would be in their handbooks, presumably?
probably,
Right.
yeah.
But it's
So if
good
it's
to
a new
know.
policy, we probably need to go through that process.
Yeah.
to Make it clear.
That's a good question.
I support it.
Great.
I think it's important too, I think people get a little confused at the district office because we are still working on an organizational chart, but of who supervises who, so.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mine is a much less important question for GBK. It is in the 5th paragraph. It says, all employment decisions remain within the sole and continued discretion of the administration and/or the Board of Education. Does that mean us, school board?
Yes.
Right?
School board.
So it should be school board, okay, so just, yes, school board. We don't have a Board of Education. I think those are my only, besides grammar, so much grammar, that was my only other things. Anybody else have anything else they'd like to say for these before we move on? Okay.
Thank you, Policy Committee.
Thank you, Policy Committee, yeah. All right. So we're going to do the motion. We'll accept the motion to move into second reading. Kevin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Richard? I mean, sorry. John?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm looking at him on the screen. John? Wendy?
yes.
Tia?
Yes.
And Richard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll make a motion to move the following policies for a first reading to be withdrawn, a second reading to be withdrawn. So under C, under new business, C, P, and Q.
Okay. C, P, and Q. And can I get a second?
Yep,
Tia?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay. Assuming there's no objections to withdrawing. All right, Kevin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
I'm a yes. John?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Tia?
Yes.
And Richard?
Yes.
Okay.
So I
great.
have one more thing
Keep
that's
going.
fun that we're sort of discovering that we need to do. And we can either start this tonight or we can, but when we were looking at a policy that our policy adoption process kind of thing, one of the things that's in our current policy is because we now have, in policy committee, you've granted us the right, if there's non-substantive changes, that we can just mark policies reviewed. And we're supposed to provide the board with a report on those policies so that if there's any objection or somebody wants to call those policies forward, that there's the ability to do that. I think that what we discussed is the easiest way to do that is just sort of like formally approve our minutes or adopt our minutes as reports, or, because all of the policies that are reviewed are in these minutes. So do we want to do that tonight? Because we have our draft minute, like, would,
We
I
could do
just-
that tonight, and then I'm going to get a report for the next board meeting to look at every policy we've done since
November when you granted us that.
Permission,
that
just so we
permission.
can fully, once we've approved those, and we'll be on good
Might I
standing.
make a suggestion?
Please.
Just, maybe we could, for this time, just identify the policies that have been reviewed for us on like the next agenda. And then going forward, after each policy committee at the next board meeting, just recognizing those policies in the policy committee update as reviewed. And if there's an objection, the board member can make it.
So like have a separate section on our agenda that say these policies were reviewed,
Correct.
almost like a consent agenda-ish kind of.
Right.
Or just under the policy
Under
committee
the
update.
policy
part.
committee
Either-
update.
Either way,
Yeah.
Okay.
whatever makes more sense.
Figure it would streamline your process and
So, do we want to?
So we won't do anything then
Tonight.
tonight?
We'll wait until we have the list of the.
Because
ones.
I'm not sure which of these minutes are, it says draft on the top of them. I think we have approved these minutes now at this point, but they weren't when they were included in the. So anyway, just so you know that that's coming, we're realizing that that needs to be an additional step in our process so that if the board has questions about those policies that we reviewed and thinks that something more should be done than just the little changes that we've made, that there's an opportunity to do. Yep.
Would that trigger that then the board's adopting our reviewed policy, or revised, right? So we change the date?
Right,
What's
so that's
that?
so that was sort of what was coming up, is we were trying to figure out how to identify or mark the policies updated, and
Like
if,
revised, right? Like it's revised without revision.
Right.
because it's-
But it's still revised because we've agreed to it.
Right.
So, we've looked at it.
Yeah, so those dates, so we can.
so we can update those dates
Yeah.
and show that we actually have looked at them. So it's a little sort
Yeah, we
of,
can stop looking at them.
yeah,
And
so we can stop.
when we launch Diligent Community,
It'll do
it
that
will be
for us.
really easy on our agenda to, each one of those
It
that
just
have been
moves it, right?
reviewed, it'll be highlighted, so a board member can actually just click on it and see the policy if they want.
Yep,
And then it'll automatically identify as reviewed.
perfect.
It's kind of sweet.
So just FYI.
All right, thank you. Okay, great. Moving on to committee updates. Finance and Facilities, next meeting is September 23rd at 4:30 PM at the SAU office. Policy Committee, you met on September 9th. We've heard all things. Nothing else to add?
Did you want Finance and Facilities to give an update
Oh,
on our last
sorry.
meeting?
Oh, well, yeah.
I think we did from the last,
I think you met before, have you met since in the last 2 weeks? I think it was before our last meeting. So you did give an update, or did you meet in the last 2 weeks?
We met on the 22nd. I don't think we've met since I don't know why, but
I feel like I might have given an update last time, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, I guess
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
after I had left.
Yeah.
It's good. Okay, thanks. Policy Committee, we were talking about that. So the next meeting is on September 7th, 8:15 a.m. at the SAU office. Education Committee, we met on September 9th.
We did, and the fifth grade team is prepping a possible presentation to consider departmentalizing the fifth grade. Well, yeah, we'll just TBD.
I think it's actually been going to be withdrawn, so.
It's going to be?
Since we
Okay.
took the meeting, so it doesn't even matter.
Okay.
They changed their minds.
Okay, I felt like, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. And we have also asked Karen to draft up a potential 2-year plan for start time, right? Do you-
Investigating moving back start times, yes. So we're going to investigate this. First year
Yes.
is investigation. So she's going to come with a timeline, and we're going to collect the information that was gathered at other points and information from other schools and go from there. So, see what happens.
All right, and that's all I got for you, besides what Karen told us.
Right, and we had that to update. Okay, we are meeting again on October 7th at 4:15 PM at the SAU. PNN met on September 9th. Do you want to talk about something like that?
Sure, we met on September 9th. We received a proposal. We were going to have a meeting tomorrow, but our legal counsel needed to reschedule. Our next meeting with the LEA was going to be on the 17th, but we're going to move that to just the board representation to meet. And then I believe our next negotiation meeting is in October, early October.
Is the meeting on the 17th at 4 or 4:30? Because the previous schedule had it at 4:30, but.
I think it is
listed here as
4:30.
4.
I think you're correct, it is 4:30, Jessica. And I was going to try to bring food since I know there's lots of meetings after, so.
Okay. And when do you anticipate some kind of report back to the board?
I would say mid-October, probably.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll talk, maybe, yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. If you need it sooner, I can speak with Jim.
Okay, Student Wellness Advisory Committee, next meeting is October 4th at 3:30 at the SAU. HACCC, next meeting is October 1st at 11:45 at HACCC. Area meeting, our next meeting is October 15th at Plainfield Elementary School at 6 PM. Has there been a housing meeting since we last saw you, John?
Has there been a what?
A housing?
No, we were trying to schedule, that was the last I've heard.
Okay.
And I haven't heard a confirmation on when we're meeting
Okay.
yet.
When you find that out, if you could just email me and Lori, that would be helpful. Okay, thanks. School District City Task Force, next meeting is October 24th at 6 PM at City Hall. I would like to reopen public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? No. Is there any public comment online?
There is no people on.
No public
persons
comment
online.
There's no person online, besides Richard.
I have a
Okay.
quick question.
Yes, I was going to move to questions. Questions, yes.
How did using the SAU as
Oh.
a polling place work?
We haven't done our debrief yet, but there's lots of things I think we need to work out before the
General
November.
election.
Yeah. So I think there was some confusion in pulling into the parking lot and things like that, so.
And did they use the gym? Is that where they set up?
Yes, they did. So
Okay.
we had people coming in through the elevator that needed accessible
Yep,
entrance
access.
through there, and then some of them coming in through the side as well, and exiting, if they could, out back by the gym, the back stairs. So,
Why?
The fire
why
escape?
was that?
yes.
What was the process by which that was?
It was determined within the city and the facilities department that kind of mapped this plan out. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly when that debrief is scheduled, but there.
Did we offer?
Oh, to them to come in, they had asked us if this is something that we could, they could use the space, considering there was not a lot of parking at Kilton Library, and they knew that this year's election would be bigger, so we as a community partner said we will give this a try, but I think there are some things that we just need to work out with that, and better signage, and, I mean, we had plenty.
I think also part of the reason for the switch is the introduction of the new pad technology has kind of created a need for a different layout of where the poll workers sit and everything, and Kilton wasn't very well set up to accommodate that.
Thank you, Richard, so.
All right. Any other board member questions or future agenda items or recommendations? I just have one. In addition to the NESAC meeting, which may or may well need some of us to be at during the middle of October, October 19th is the NHSBA Delegate Assembly. Tia, you did this last year with whom? Who was the other person?
MJ.
MJ, okay. So we send a delegate and an alternate every year to this assembly. This is of our lobbying body, and so we decide what it is that we authorize them to lobby for on our behalf. They will be sending out some draft proposals pretty soon. We need to nominate a alternate and a voter, and then we need to authorize them to act on our behalf in voting on these proposals, and we need to tell them what we think about the proposals that are as they're written at this point. So those should be coming out soon if they haven't already. And Tia volunteered last year and MJ did it last year, but it can be anyone who wants to do this. And if you don't want to vote, you can also just go. It's fun to watch if you have free time. But so, Tia, what are your thoughts? Our plan last year was to have, were you alternate or voter last year?
I was originally the alternate, and then I became the voter.
Right.
Which was fine, and I am fine to volunteer. I think it does work out well to have the plan of somebody who's done it in the past with
Right.
somebody new to get some of that exposure. So I do think that's a good idea, and I can preemptively volunteer. I shouldn't have class that day, so I don't have anything scheduled, so.
Okay. So is anybody else interested in participating as our alternate and learning the process for the future?
Not that day.
Not that day. Yeah, it's a hard.
It's a
hard-
Saturday.
right in
What's the
middle.
day?
It's October 19th.
Is it October the 19th?
Yes. It's a busy day.
Let me check my calendar. I'm actually free that day.
Oh, but do you want to? That is the question. You don't have to, but if you're free, that's good. What are your thoughts?
Sure.
Richard? Okay. Tia will reach out, we'll talk to you about what you need to do. It's sort of like you go there, you have breakfast, you do the voting, there's also like snacks and things, and you're usually done within a couple hours. It doesn't take that long.
Well, I think there's usually some kind of presentation of some kind too.
Often there's a presentation from the board of the year. The board has been recognized as the school board that's been recognized as school board of the year. So sometimes that's, in the past, it's been really helpful to see and what other people are doing and what we can learn from them. So great. Thank you all both for doing that. And we'll get those proposals and we'll put that on the agenda when they come.
Okay.
Sometime before then. All right. Any other questions, recommendations, concerns?
Tim had November 23rd in his presentation for our budget
Oh, thank you.
meeting. November 23rd was what he had on his.
I think it's the Saturday before Thanksgiving.
It was the Saturday before Thanksgiving.
All right.
Just want to make sure that's accurate. And we're doing that, and is that going to be here, kind of the morning time?
Yes. So November 23rd, Saturday before Thanksgiving, that will be our budget meeting when we meet here with all of the administrative teams. And before that, we will have had all of our individual meetings with the administrative teams. That meeting usually starts either at 8 or 9. I don't know how early it's going to be, and there's usually food because we're there for a long time. So yes, November 23rd, we should put that on our calendars and start putting it on this agenda as well.
And then the October 21st week, when we do our school meetings, how soon will we have a week? Going through those documents takes a bit of time.
Right, how
And-
far in advance will we get the,
Or am I just showing up and,
no, we hopefully get them a
Checking it
week in
out.
advance.
Yes.
We hopefully get them at least a
Okay.
week in advance. That's the goal.
I'll confirm with Tim and email you guys to let you know.
Yeah, the goal is to have it for a week, so.
Well, if he's going to meet with the
Yeah, it won't be a
principals the
week.
week before,
Depending on how early he meets with the principals. So-
Let me meet with him tomorrow and kind of get that kind
I
of
think
similar.
what happened last time is that he moved, the principals were at the beginning of that week, and we were all at the end of that next week, and so we really did have a week in between, but it was like 2 days worth of principals, and then a week, and then 2 days worth of us at the end, so it's close, but I think that's what he tried to do last year. I don't know how successful he was getting it to us.
I'm on it.
Well, and the other thing I would just ask as a new board member, having some comparative years sent my
Oh,
way.
he'll give you those.
He'll give you, he
binders
has
you
them
asked
for you.
No, I know,
Yeah.
just a little earlier.
You can have those at any point, so if you
okay,
could
so
just send
I'll
him an
just
email.
email- I'll
Yes,
email
email him
Tim
and you'll
for
get
that.
the preceding years, yes. He would love to give them to
Bring
you.
a backpack. Fill it up.
Yeah, I would love those too. So if he does email them to you, maybe you could ask him to email them to all of
He's
us.
not gonna email
No,
you.
he's not going to
He's
email
going
them.
to hand
They're,
you a
they're
very
3-inch binders. So if you, Richard, if you want
good
previous
Lord.
years, just email Tim and say, I also would like previous years, and he will either bring them to a meeting or get them to you some other way.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good clarifications. Thank you, John. Any other dates or clarifications? No? Okay. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, John's making a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second?
Seconded.
Kevin seconding, all right. Kevin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
I'm a yes. John?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Tia?
Yes.
Richard?